Hey guys, today we're showing you how to install the Tusk adjustable width racing axle for the Yamaha Blasters. This is a great way to get a wider stance for more stability. Now this axle is also going to fit some Raptors and Banshees as well. So it has a few different spacers on here, and depending on what machine you have determines how this goes together. But again, today we're just focusing on the Blasters. So the first thing that I want to talk about is these two spacers right here. So if you have a 2002 and older Blaster, you're going to use the smaller spacer. You're going to look at what side of the axle you're at. So the splines for the brake hub, these are larger in diameter. So this is going to be on the right side of the machine. So we're going to take this stepped collar, and the larger diameter is going to cover some of these splines. So we're going to go in from that sprocket side. We'll set it on just like that, and then you can bring this over to your machine, and this is actually going to sit inside the dust seal next to your bearings. If you have a newer Blaster like us, you're going to use the bigger spacer or bigger collar, and that larger inside diameter, that's going to be facing out towards your wheel, and this is going to go again right next to the brake hub splines, the larger diameter splines. To do this job, you're going to need some common hand tools. Now, the most important thing is to make sure you have the axle nut wrenches. If you want an affordable way to do this, you can go with the ones from Tusk. Now, other than that, we're going to be replacing our axle hub bearings at the same time. That's going to be in a separate video. So if you need to do that, make sure you check that out. To start out, we've gone ahead and removed our rear wheels. After that, you want to remove the cotter pins for your hub nuts. Loosen those up and remove the hubs. Then break the axle nuts free and remove them. Take out the two bolts from the brake caliper and remove it. Loosen your axle adjusters. Slide the chain off. Remove your sprocket hub. Pull the axle out. Now we can slide the brake hub off of our axle. And we're just going to wipe these down with a rag and a little bit of contact cleaner. With the axle out, we can now replace our axle bearings. And once we do that, we're going to continue with installing our new axle. Again, if you need to replace your axle bearings, make sure you click the link to our Blaster axle bearing replacement video. With our bearings replaced, we need to prep our axle. And when you put this in place, you're either going to want to use grease or some anti-seize on these splines and where those bearings ride, just because everything gets so corroded, you don't want this to get seized in there. That way, if you ever have to do anything again on it, you're going to be able to remove the axle. So back at the machine, we're going to make sure we have plenty of grease on the dust seals. So once you're to this point, what you can do is slide the axle in from the right side of the machine. And this is only going to slide in from this side. That's again because we have the larger splines for the brake hub. And this collar, I actually need to move it out of the way, and that way I can install the brake hub. Now with this, we have the collar for the dust seal built into the brake hub, but again, if you have the 02 and older, that was the smaller collar that's going to be sitting around those splines. That's what's going to go in there. So we're going to go ahead and slide that in all the way. Rotate that into the dust seal. Then I can reinstall this spacer, again with that larger inside diameter. That's going to be facing the wheel. Now I almost forgot to mention, if you don't already have your chain wrapped around your swing arm, you need to do that so the axle goes through it. So next step is to install the C-clip. These can be kind of a pain. You can use a punch and a hammer to get them on and use some tape around your axle to protect it, but the easiest way is going to be some flat tip snap ring pliers. So you want to make sure that snap ring's all the way in the groove, which it is. So on this one, we can push the axle all the way in, and now the C-clip can't pop out because it's sitting in the groove on that spacer. Now on the other side, we're going to install the sprocket hub, and again, make sure the collar sits down into the groove or into your dust seal. So we are all the way in right there. The next step is to install the 3-piece lock nut. So with this, on the inside, you have a little step, and your C-clip's going to fit in there. And this inner nut, that's going to be pushing against this clip. Now for the outside, you have a step right here, and that's going to be facing the sprocket. So we're going to set that in place, install the C-clip. So with the C-clip in place, now we just need to tighten the 3-piece lock nut. You can see that inner piece is going over the C-clip. That's exactly what you want. Now before we get this tightened down all the way, what we need to do is install our chain and our brake caliper. Next, I'm going to use a sprocket jammer and set my parking brake. After that, I'm going to use my 70mm axle nut wrench to tighten the 3-piece axle nut to spec. Now if you need one of these, the part number is listed in the description with these axles. Now to get the correct spec on the nut, you want to make sure that the tool is 90 degrees to your wrench. Now I'm going to get the sprocket jammer out of the way, and I've also released that parking brake. So from here, what we need to do is rotate the axle. Then we have this locking bolt right here. You're going to remove that, then apply a little bit of blue Loctite to it, or medium strength Loctite, and then you're going to reinstall it and torque it to 12 foot-pounds. So from here, you want to set your chain tension, and then you also want to know about these spacers. So at a very minimum, you need to run the thinnest spacer. If you want, you can run just that wider one, or if you want the widest width for your ATV, you can run both spacers on each side. After that, make sure you use just a little bit of anti-seize on these splines. Just keep in mind, if you go the minimum width, you're going to have the larger spacer towards the castle nut. Install the wheel hub, then you have your castle nut. You want to torque that to spec, and then install your new cotter pin. So other than that, you'll notice that that Tusk off-road sticker, it's upside down. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this axle fits multiple machines, so it might be in a different orientation on something else. So that's why it comes with another sticker. So if you have a Blaster, you can go ahead and cover that up. And if you need to know how to get your chain adjusted, or even replace your wheel bearings and all the torques for the rest of the parts going on your axle, you're going to want to check out our Blaster axle bearing replacement video. So that's it for installing the Tusk adjustable width racing axle on your Yamaha Blaster. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and we'll catch you next time. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.